Ben ritrovati amici di Paleo-Nerd, oggi è un giorno veramente speciale per me perché ho qui con me David Silva, fondatore di Creative Beast Studio e responsabile di una campagna veramente imponente sui Tyrannosauri. E gli farò alcune domande per l'appunto su questa serie, sulle serie passate e possibilmente sul futuro. So, hi David.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, fine, thanks. Thanks for accepting my invitation. It's an honor for me. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
The main goal of your Tyrannosaur series is already fully funded, and many of the stretch goals have been unlocked. Did you expect such a mind-blowing response?
I didn't really know what to expect. I know that I've been able to grow my fan base pretty well over the years, so I guess I'd be a little surprised if it didn't do well, but I feel like it's doing better than I expected.
There's a lot of things to do when the campaign is over, right? Do you have something in mind for the Baker kit, which will come next?
I usually come up with something eventually, something extra to add in, but I don't know what that's going to be just yet. I might not decide until next winter. I'm not sure. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not committing to any particular idea just yet.
Oh, I'm sure you will surprise us like what you did with the Raptor series. Speaking about the Raptor series, in a recent interview, you say that it also helped that people are pretty familiar with velociraptors due to how prevalent they are in pop culture. And that got me thinking of how your raptors are totally different from the pop culture depictions. So, what can you tell us about that challenging experience?
It wasn't really that much of a challenge. I had an idea that maybe it was time to present a new take on the Velociraptor, which is funny that it's such an old take on it, but nobody really paid attention. But just the fact that there wasn't anything really like that in action figure form already made me think that there would be room in the market for it. And the name Velociraptor, it is very popular. Ironically enough, it's popular for a dinosaur that's not a velociraptor. It's a Deinonychus. But
yeah, or a Utahraptor, but not a velociraptor, obviously.
Yeah. So what kind of inspired me is that when I was a kid and I was into dinosaur books and all that, and I looked up an actual velociraptor, and it didn't look like what was in that movie in Jurassic Park, I really got interested. It was like, hey, wait a minute, what else is different? And I started just kind of going down the rabbit hole of, learning more about the different types of dinosaurs. And I was kind of fascinated by, with the difference between the Hollywood dinosaurs and the real dinosaurs. And ever since then, I've kind of had it in my head that I would like to, see more of that. And now I'm in a position where I can make those types of products.
Yeah. I remember your efforts for Hasbro with Jurassic Park, and obviously the project, the Beasts of the Mesozoic series, is totally different, and that's where I like the most because you talked a lot about the Pachyrhinosaurus being very different from your idea of Pachyrhinosaurus. So it's so amazing the way the project sticks to accuracy. And speaking about that, since the first campaign, if I remember correctly, you made the Raptors all by yourself, right?
Yeah, I didn't have that many resources at the time, so I just kind of had to work by myself. And I was lucky. I was lucky enough to work with Jonathan Quo at the time for the package art. I'm glad he was available because that really helped. But as far as designing and sculpting, I did all that myself.
And since the first campaign, Creative This Studio has gathered a super team of sculptors and illustrators like Raul Ramos, Jacob Barce, and even illustrators like RJ Palmer, just to name one of them, because you really have a super team right now. Can you describe your way of working as a team?
It's not really that difficult. I mean, I think that the main thing that ties us all together is that we're interested in the content, and we all care about the product. I mean, I'm not able to make a lot of money on these toys like like a Hasbro or a Mattel. So obviously, if somebody's going to work for me, they're not going to get paid as well as if they work for a larger company. But that in a way sort of draws people to the project that really care about it, and that's what I've found so far, is that I'm working with a lot of people who care about it and who really enjoy seeing it develop into something bigger and being a part of that. And it just makes everybody really easy to work with.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And just to ask, what are you learning from each other?
I feel like I'm probably learning more than anybody, because I'm coming to this from the toy industry. I mean, we mostly work on human type characters, and and different types of accessories that go with human characters. I've been fortunate enough to get my hands on a lot of different creature type projects, which tie into wildlife anatomy and things like that. So I feel like I've had a bit more experience in that area as far as being in this industry. But the main thing that I think I bring to the team is the design direction of sort of approaching dinosaurs with the mentality of what works for like popular characters and licenses. There seems to be a big distinction between what we've seen in the past as far as dinosaur collectibles and things like that. Like we were saying, that a lot of it's very heavily influenced by Jurassic Park. If it's not, then it's maybe too specific to paleo art in a way that is only focusing on accuracy and not really focusing on developing the character of the animal. And I'm really interested in not only accuracy but also expressing the character of the animal and making it memorable. That's something that I've taken away from designing characters in the past, working on human characters that are popular. I mean, they have a certain thing about them that it is easy to convey to the audience, that you get what they're about when you see them and you remember them for something. And I want to bring that to the dinosaurs. I want them to be memorable. I want them to be have a character. And I see that when I see animals in the wild, on documentaries or at the zoo or whatever. I mean, they have character. And I feel like that's missing a lot of times with collectibles, and that's something that I really want to work towards expressing.
Oh yeah, no, your dinosaurs have a great personality, especially because
Thanks.
of the colors. I've noticed many things during the course of the series. From the very first concept, it seems like everything in your work has been planned perfectly, and then you change something, being the sculpt or the color. So, which dinosaurs on this series were the easiest to make and the most difficult ones, especially since it's teamwork?
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to say the difficulties for the ones that I didn't sculpt. I mean, to me, it looks like Jake and Raul are just having a pretty easy time with it. But I'm sure there's more to it. But like the ones that I'm sculpting, I'm always concerned if it's accurate enough or if I'm nailing the shapes correctly and things like that. If if it has feathers, do the feathers look natural enough? And like I'm always kind of obsessing about those types of things. That in particular, the Dialong figure was a very challenging one, just because it's the same size as the Raptors that I've done, but I didn't want it to look like the Raptors, and I wanted to somehow make it unique and still be accurate, still have character, and make sure that the articulation worked all the same, but maybe better. Probably, I mean, I think the legs are gonna be more improved than the Raptors were, but each one has its challenges. Even the small ones that I'm working on right now are challenging. Just in I don't want them to be too similar, even though they share parts, and I want each one to come across as being a separate thing, and still be accurate, of course. So each project is it's a journey, and there's always something to learn from it, and there's always room for improvement. Like for example, if somebody offers some constructive criticism about something, I consider it. I don't always agree with it, but I'll consider it, and a lot of times I will adjust things if I agree with their advice. So it's a process.
It became a sort of collaboration because I read a lot of feedback, a lot of comments from the community, which helps you.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of eyes on the pieces, and sometimes people see things that I don't see, and there's plenty of instances where people know more about the dinosaur than I do. Like I said, I'm not a super huge expert on dinosaurs. I'm just really interested in them, and I've tried to learn as much as I can. But I'm still going to miss things, and sometimes it's been very helpful to have more people looking at this and say, hey, this looks a little off, or you might want to change that or something like that. As long as it's constructive and respectful, I'm totally, open to considering what they're saying. Just want to make the figure as good as it can be.
Oh, you show a lot of respect because I see how many things have changed because of comments, because of advice or feedback. And as we speak, Gorgosaurus has been unlocked. Can you tell us something about your collaboration with Shane Fox, who painted the prototype?
Yeah, well, I gotta go back to the beginning. Shane and I met in 2011, back when I was just doing model kits for dinosaurs. I started by promoting myself through model kit conventions. We met at Wonderfest in Kentucky back in 2011, and he's been one of the people I look up to ever since then, because he's been doing it so much longer than me, and just like super big expert on the subject. So I've learned a lot from him, and I got to a spot with this current series where I'm having trouble finding people helping me to paint the prototypes, and I went to Shane and I said, hey, can you recommend anybody to help me out with painting these prototypes? And he said, yeah, me. And I was thinking, no, I never thought to ask him to help out, because I know he's super busy with his own projects, and plus, if it were switched, I'd probably say I don't know if I have time for that. So, but yeah, it was really generous of him to offer to help out, and there were 3 of the bigger dinosaurs to paint, so it was a big help. There was there's still some challenges there, because he's used to painting one-off figures, and I need to paint things that can be mass produced. So basically the people at the factory aren't going to be able to paint like Shane Falks. So we have to, like they probably paint more like I paint, which I'm not like the best painter, but I'm pretty good. So I feel like the way that I normally paint matches pretty well with what they do in China, and so not just with Shane's Gorgosaurus, but with with pretty much anything that I get from other painters, I will go over it at the end to make sure that it, you know, can be reproduced and does have the look that goes along with the rest of the established, you know, series. So, so yeah, I mean, it went overall, it went pretty smoothly, and I really didn't have to change that much. It was just, you know, a few tweaks, but it was a huge help, and he kind of enhanced the design that I had, which wasn't, you know, it wasn't as effective as it could have been, and that's how a lot of those designs are. They evolve with each step, and that's kind of what we expect to do. So so yeah, I mean, there's that one. I'm finishing up the Ceratopsians right now. I'm doing a few things to match it to the design that I came up with, and the package art. I'm always trying to line everything up, like the package art, the figure, the design. I want to make sure that there's a consistent look to things. So yeah, that's how that went.
That's a very interesting process because you have to face the mass production. So I totally understand. Your approach to toys is very interesting. And one of the figures of the series has a deep connection to the toys world. I'm talking about the Dino Riders variant of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is a legend because many of us have grown up with the Dino Riders, dinosaurs with lasers. Okay,
Oh yeah,
it's so cool.
I think
So
that's what really got me into dinosaurs originally was the Dino Riders toy line. You know, back in, was it, they started in '87 or '88, and that was just, you know, like the biggest deal to me at the time. Like I know for a lot of people that are into dinosaur toys, their big thing was the Jurassic Park toys, but by that point, I was a teenager and I wasn't really buying toys anymore, so that I wasn't affected by that. But I was really affected by the Dino Riders toy line.
yeah, and you even managed to collaborate with the original artist for the packaging of Dino Riders. So it's incredibly cool. You did it with the Monoclonius, the Kickstarter exclusive, and then you did it again with the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask, can I see it?
Yeah. There he is.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's so incredible. What were your thoughts when you finally finished it? Because you know we had the concept, we had the idea. When you have it ends, what are your feelings?
It's very satisfying that I'm even in a position to do something like this. I know no one else would probably do this, and you know, it's one of those things that was shown to us when we were kids and we never got. You know, obviously the Tyrannosaurus Rex that they did put out was in a completely different color scheme, and you know, in the cartoons and the comics, they were all painted like this one here, and you know, it was just never made. So you know, it's very satisfying to be, you know, in a position where I can finally bring those colors to the T-Rex. Like how big, like just to try to get it all.
It's so big.
Yeah.
Wow! I think I think it's a big star of this Kickstarter. I really think it is the big star because you know it's so amazing. Oh my god! Can't wait to see. I can't wait to see the pictures from the collectors all over the world. You know, people who order this beauty and then, oh, look at my T-Rex.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I always like seeing people's pictures after they buy these figures. I mean, I always follow that on Instagram, and it's always a blast to see what they came up with. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we get with the Tyrannosaurs as well.
I'm really excited right now because it's the first time I ever seen it in hand. Because it's different from the stock pictures. It's incredible.
Yeah,
So
it's hard to convey how big it is. I mean, it's the biggest thing I've done so far. So there was some hesitation about making something that big, but I felt like after the Ceratopsians, maybe it's time to give it a shot, and the response was very positive. So pretty happy about that.
yeah. As with the Raptor and Ceratopsian series, some of the species featured in the Tyrannosaur series had never been made as toys before. So, how's that different from making dinosaurs with a long tradition of toys? And I'm talking about the king, because the king has a lot of toys. So, how's that different?
I don't really see much of a difference because I'm not necessarily familiar with all the renditions of the popular dinosaurs that have been done. I've probably seen the most popular ones, but I don't follow it like a lot of people do. I kind of just, but like I was saying before, I if it's not an action figure, I probably don't see it. So when I go into these dinosaurs, whether they're popular or relatively unknown, I give them the same treatment either way, and I just try to come up with something that feels like the expression that I want to make for them, as far as the available evidence, for the fossils and whatnot, and also, basing their color schemes, for their environments, and whatever animals inspire their colors to me. So it's really not influenced by what I've seen before, unless I'm doing an homage like Dino Riders, obviously, or the Walking with Dinosaurs version. But generally for the main line, I just kind of create characters. Basically, it's really what it comes down to. I'm taking the reference that I find, and I'm just kind of making a character out of it. So that's usually my approach.
Yeah, I remember when you changed the Raptors, when you put the lips on the Raptors, on all the Raptors, because if I correct me if I'm wrong, the very first Velociraptor was lipless, right? And then you changed all.
Yeah, that was a very important thing that I learned, and that's something that was brought up by showing my work, publicly on my social media. And there's a lot of people that follow me, like I said, who are more into this than I am, really. Like they know a lot of things that I don't know, and I heard sides for both. I mean, there were people who said you don't put lips on the Velociraptor, and there's people who said you do, and I heard both sides of it, and I decided that it was better to go with the lips, basically, because it made more sense. And there's certain topics like that they're going to come up, and you're going to have people arguing one point against the other. But I try not to have a bias. I just try to look at whatever evidence there is for both sides, and then decide what is most rational to go with, and that's where we ended up.
Yeah, I think it's the right way, because based on what we know, there's no black or white on this topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of similar to the keratin shield on the Triceratops, because you decided to go with it, and that's a great choice, greater stylistic choice, supported by science. Now I really wanna talk about the future. So you really surprised everyone with the announcement of the Cyberzoic series. How cool is that? Just by the name alone, Cyberzoic.
Yeah.
And then we found out that it will be uh, armored dinosaurs versus dragons. Really?
Yeah.
So, no, you have to tell us more.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's it's been a dream of mine for a long time to develop my own intellectual property, and I've had some of these characters for a long time that I've drawn many times, and it's basically like a lot of my original personal art has included things from this story in the past, like the Arctic dragon, the dragon versus raptors statue that I did, Dragolina, the dinosaur slayer. These are all tied to the same story, and I've been sort of developing the story on the side for years now, and it's not one of those things that I can just jump into. If it weren't for the success of Beast of the Mesozoic, I wouldn't be in a position to even attempt this. So now it's gotten to a point where presenting Cyberzoic is actually going to be a complement to Beast of the Mesozoic, because then we can share the same dinosaur molds between the two, have different paint schemes, and then on the one hand you have one that's more inspired by natural history, and on the other hand you have one that's more inspired by science fiction, but you still have accurate dinosaurs in both. And it seems like a real fun way to not only diversify the line as far as species go, so we're not tied to doing like 22 species every series. We can do like maybe 5 stegosaurs and 5 hadrosaurs and 5 spinosaurs. We don't have to do 20 every time. It's a bit excessive, and it would take a long time to diversify the line if we do it that way. So if we can share figures between 2 separate toy lines, then we can justify the cost of the molds and all the expenses involved. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with that idea. But at the same time, Cyberzoic is something that I really want to do, and I feel pretty strongly about the story and the values in the story. And of course, armored dinosaur versus dragons is a pretty good catch for a lot of people. I mean, that it's hard to argue with that.
It sounds like yeah, it sounds like a great comic book or a great movie. If you ask me, so
yeah, I hope so. It's going to be a lot of fun to dive into. After I get the Tyrannosaur prototypes finished, I'll be talking a lot more about it. And now hopefully people don't get the impression that I'm abandoning Beast of the Mesozoic, because that's definitely not what's happening. It's really a way to enhance the line instead of taking away from it. So I think people will see more of the dinosaurs that they've been asking for, because we're not going to be tied to the family plans anymore, like the family series. I mean, that's it worked well for Raptors and Ceratopsians, Tyrannosaurs, but if we're going to continue to move forward, we'll have to diversify.
If we think about Spinosaurs, they're totally different. So I really understand. Do you think your experience with dinosaurs will influence your approach to dragons now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Back when I first started sculpting for McFarlane Toys, I had already been designing for them for about 1.5 years, and then I started sculpting for them. And one of my early projects was one of the dragon figures, and I was just detailing a few parts. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it really got me thinking about like sculpting my own dragons and how I would approach that. And I always kind of had issue with a lot of the fantasy dragons because their anatomy looked so similar to human anatomy. It was just kind of stretched out, and I always wanted to treat them more like animals, like what we would see in the wild. And that sort of put me on the path of sculpting dinosaurs, because in order to prove that I could sculpt a dragon, I actually sculpted a Dilophosaurus in my spare time and showed it to them, and then they gave me my dragon sculpt, and that Dilophosaurus ended up being a model kit later on. So it all connects. Like I was into dinosaurs when I was a kid, and then I got away from it, and then I sculpted dragons for McFarlane Toys, but that led to me sculpting dinosaurs again, and and now here we are trying to combine the two together. So,
the best of both worlds.
Yeah. They've always been kind of connected in my head anyway, and I knew if I was ever going to do anything with dragons, they would have to be very natural history inspired, and it wouldn't look like any of the sword and sorcery type genre dragons that we've seen before. I definitely want them to feel like real animals that could exist, So that's the approach that I'll be taking.
Are there gonna be human characters as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we'll have human characters, and a lot of them, like I was saying, I have designs that go back as far as high school in some cases. I just keep redesigning them, and try to figure out where they fit in, what their values are, and things like that. And I think it'll be cool. I mean, somebody has to ride in the armor, right, for the dinosaurs. So we gotta have human characters. So
obviously,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
Who's gonna ride the dinosaur?
Who's gonna ride?
It's a question. No, I think it would be amazing, like all of your projects. And as the author of 3 successful campaigns, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start a crowdfunding?
I would say to really take it seriously. I think the first step is growing your audience beforehand. You definitely don't want to start a crowdfunding campaign without people knowing who you are and what your work is about. They're not going to find you on Kickstarter. They're going to find you before you get to the Kickstarter. So, I worked at promoting myself on social media. I think I've been on social media now for about 11 years. And, that started with my model kits. So by the time I got to the Raptor series, I already had my model kits out there for, a good amount of time. And it wasn't a huge audience, but it was something to work with and get me started. So building an audience is definitely the first step, and it can be pretty daunting at first. But I think if you have a direction that you want to go in, and you have something to aim for, then all of your content can be directly related to your process for creating whatever it is you're making. And eventually you just kind of find a flow for it. And it can be as simple as a quick photo of what you're making. And, people will be interested. People will love to see the process and follow along as it develops. I think it's very exciting for people, and I do it too. So, growing your audience is really key. Like if you don't have an audience, I wouldn't think of doing a Kickstarter for at least 2 years. So, you could just jump in and try it, but I think that it would only work for something that only requires a small amount of money. So, that would be my main advice, is to grow your audience first.
Yeah. I'd like to see one more figure. It's a fan favorite. Do you have the Tyrannosaur?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, guys, the feather tyrant, the beautiful feather tyrant. Wow, look at the head. So great.
Trying to get in the camera.
You must feel really proud. I love the coloration. I really love the coloration. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh yeah, my guys, even if it's not as big as the T-Rex, it's a really huge figure.
It's a good size, and that's like I was saying earlier. Some of these dinosaurs will be shared in Cyberzoic. Tyrannus will show up again in Cyberzoic in different colors, and it's like we're already working on designs for that, and so that'll be pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really great. I really want to see all the things you will do for this series, because it will take a year or two for the final production of the models, so of the figures.
Mm-hmm.
So we will follow you with excitement, because
Thank you.
it's always a big event. The Paleo-Nerd community is a niche. And I'm not talking about just the Paleo-Nerd site. Every dinosaur fan is a Paleo-Nerd, if you if you think about it. And then
that's true, yeah.
And then they wait for the project, they follow it, they get involved, as like you said earlier. So it's incredible the way you get people involved in your creations.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate that we have so many ways to communicate with each other nowadays, and so many ways to reach people. So without social media, without Kickstarter, I wouldn't be able to make these figures. I'd just be working for other companies. So
I know, which is not that bad.
But there's a lot of things that I want to make that I know other companies wouldn't invest in. So that's why I'm doing this. So it's very gratifying.
And do you think your work will inspire bigger companies to make feathered dinosaurs, accurate dinosaurs, something more like what you do with dinosaurs?
I don't think it'll inspire the action figure companies very much. I feel like the larger action figure companies, they have systems that they need to kind of stick to, and they need reliable means of making profits and things like that. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, they have a lot of people to look after, so they have to go with what they know will sell, and that doesn't include something like this. I mean, we don't know how this would do if it were produced at a larger scale. It may not compete with something like a licensed product like a Marvel or a Ninja Turtles or something like that, that we just don't know. So something like this is best left to someone like me who doesn't have a lot of liabilities. Maybe someday we'll see more of that. If it happens anywhere, it's probably going to happen in Japan, to be honest. I think that they are used to taking more risks with their collector audience. I'd be surprised to see it here anytime soon, but you never know. But with like the prices of production and shipping are going up, and that means the price of collectibles is going up, and so it's going to be an even bigger investment for companies to do this. I already have a lot of figure molds, and I have my foot in the door with this sort of thing already. So that's an advantage for this type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see a lot of collectibles for dinosaurs coming up, but mostly, static collectibles, statues and figurines and things like that. They're not as expensive to produce as articulated figures. So it's a much bigger commitment to do articulated dinosaur figures.
Yeah, I know, and that's what makes your figures so special. So, David, again, thanks a lot for being here. A huge honor for me. And yeah, thanks. Per chi ovviamente vede questo video, metteremo il link del Kickstarter di David in descrizione. Mi raccomando, ordinate queste figure perché sono incredibili, saranno sicuramente pezzi di storia in questo campo. E chi ci segue già conosce benissimo il suo lavoro, e non vediamo l'ora davvero di vedere questo sguardo sul futuro, grazie appunto alle nuove serie, alla Tyrannosaur Series e alla Ceratopsians Series in futuro. Quindi rimanete sintonizzati e alla prossima.
Thank you to everybody who's supported me so far, and hope you enjoy what is to come. Goodbye. Thanks.